Hello, everybody. As usual, my excitement to be on this forum. As usual, I have an exciting guest, for the next 10, 15 minutes. And as usual, this is cross-cultural experience, where I invite a guest who has left his or her culture of origin, traveled to some other place, experienced something, and is very willing to share with us, no matter the type of experience. But more importantly, what did the person learn from that experience? And so today, I have a young man called Ethan. How are you, Ethan?
Okay, I'm okay. How are you, Uche?
Yes, I'm doing great. Maybe this is when you need to briefly introduce yourself so that whoever views this will get to know you.
Sure. Hey everyone. My name is Ethan Trin, and I am a Vietnamese. I am an immigrant. I am an educator, researcher, writer, partner. Um, and I think I'm also um a person who loves working with the different communities around the world. Um, yeah, and that's pretty much. And I love nature. So you can see in the background, I love the nature because of that. I really enjoy walking in nature. I love enjoy thinking and meditating um, in the nature because it gives me a moment for myself for reflection.
Okay, but do you know what I enjoy? Vietnamese cuisines. I like
Ah,
the
the Vietnamese cuisine. Yes, yes. So when you speak about the Vietnamese cuisine, there's just like
yeah.
tons, and we spend hours
Oh
talking
yeah,
about it. Yeah.
especially the soup, the one that comes from the soup. That's what I mean, when I'm done with work in the office, I just run down, buy some soup. Oh my goodness, especially when it's
You,
cold.
it's
Oh,
called pho. Pho. Pho is a very nice, beautiful Vietnamese cuisine, but we
right.
also have the different things we call like noodle soup, like hủ
Yes.
tiếu.
Yeah.
We also have Vietnamese bread, we call it bánh mì.
Yeah.
We have the different types of like Vietnamese cuisine that just beautiful, and I think that is the signature of us.
Okay. So, all right. So let's get back to your experience. You're welcome to share one or two experiences, or even three if we have the time. And then, like I said, what did you learn from each and every one of them? So go ahead.
Sure. So I would say the very first thing, and then of course, I come to the conversation today without preparing or knowing any questions, right? But I prefer
Correct.
the flow of the conversation because I feel like we need to stay away from the script, but also trying to focus on the authenticity.
Absolutely, absolutely. No scripted anything. Let it just come the way it will come naturally.
Okay, so and then I think that comes to the very first point of what I want to share
Yeah.
is give me a second, let me try to turn off my uh alarm so that I can focus on the conversation.
Yeah.
But I think it is important that when we come to a space, we need to bring our authentic self in
Yes, I
every
agree.
single space. And I think that, the more the world is developing, the more that we have to stay true to who we are and where we are from and the language that we speak, right? Um, my work is pretty much focused on
Okay.
self-reflection. My work is pretty much about thinking about like how the self is in connection with the different social, cultural, political aspects. And
Yeah.
linguistic is one of part of that, right?
All right.
So as an educator, I always teach my students, not not currently an educator myself in the classroom, but as a professor and educator, I always told my students to appreciate and to value their cultures, but also at the same time learn about the different cultures and then show
Yes.
respect to that. Now, I just had a conversation with my father last night,
Yeah.
and I just had to give you a little bit background of Vietnamese culture. Sometimes, in Vietnamese culture, it's just very difficult to initiate a conversation between son and dad, or the
Yeah.
child and the dad, because there's
Yeah.
always some sort of like the distance or some sort of an invisible wall. And as you know, fathers always like keep themselves very like calm and sometimes very serious, and
Yeah.
then it just trying to like stay, push people away. But I think because I really, try to focus on exploring, the self and, thinking from the human-centered lenses, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to approach my father from the human perspective as well. So I talked to my father yesterday. I told him that, look, I feel like I am very lucky in the position that I am right now
Yes.
because I'm asking and I'm asking him this question. I asked him how many Vietnamese person or people that you see that who are willing to work with a different community who don't speak the same language with their communities, right?
Uh-huh.
So, for example, I asked him, have you ever seen a Vietnamese leaders or educator who works with Arabic community? You know, uh, and it is very strange. It is very odd, right? But and he said, no, I don't see anybody, right? So I said, yeah, but because I feel that when I come to the different culture, the different community, I have
Yeah.
to practice listening. I have to practice observing. I have to
Mm-hmm.
practice appreciating, appreciate their language, appreciate, their culture, appreciate their, perspective, because that
Yeah.
is where the learning happens, right? So for my current position as the leader at the Atlanta Global City Center, I work with the different communities, not only in Atlanta, Georgia, but also around the world. So
Right.
Arabic community is one of that. And I'm also leading, the different community, different teachers across the states of the South in the US, working with teachers who teach
Yeah.
Arabic, right? So when I come to the space, I have to be myself, but also I have to learn how to appreciate everybody's culture and learn how
That's
to
why we call it cross-cultural. You cross cultures. Right.
exactly. So I want to, bring it back to the theme of your channel. It's just
Yeah.
because when we are open ourselves, open our mindset, open to learn something different, then we would be able to cross borders, right? And the borders here is not only like physical, but also like metaphorical, not only our
Yeah.
liminal mindset, but also like would be able to push that to further. So yeah, so trying to like make the connection for the viewers or for the listener of your channel, crossing
Yeah.
the borders here, it has to be understood and approached from, a wider, deeper perspective. And you won't be able to do that if you keep that to yourself, right?
Yes.
So that is a very important lesson that I learned um, when I work with the different communities here in Georgia.
Communities. Okay. What did your dad make it respond in any way to the Arab culture you're dealing with? Did he ask you questions? What is it like?
Well, I think it is very important that,
Yeah.
they show the respect, right? They show appreciation to me.
Yes.
And usually the very first question is that, Dr. Trin, do you speak Arabic? right?
Yeah.
And sometimes of course, I don't speak Arabic, but I'm trying to include, like some of the words that I learned. For example, I say "sukran," right? So
Shukran.
that
Yeah,
is
I know that
"shukran."
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody says does
or
something and you just say shukran. Thank you.
yeah, shukran. Or I practice saying some words that, people taught me, right? So they see that I really value, the language that they speak,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And when I introduce myself to teachers, Arabic teachers, because I travel to different states to work
Yeah.
with the leaders and teachers, I always introduce myself as a Vietnamese immigrant and leader.
Yes. Hmm.
And part of my identity is as part of LGBTQ communities, right?
Yeah.
I think that speaks a lot to my current position because they know my identity, they know my
Yeah.
intersectional identity, but they
Yeah.
also have like a respect to that. And also, like I myself have respect to them. And I think that is where we talk about respect each other's space, but also in order to co-create the space, you know, to learn together, to explore the topics together. And I think at the end of the day, we have to move beyond some sort of like the restrictive definition, but we also
Yes.
have to like be opening, ourselves in an authentic way and to show people that we mean what we say.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Do you have any, since you've been doing this, meeting a lot of people, do you have any one experience that said, okay, how do I deal with this? Have you had anything like that?
Oh, I have a lot. I
Yeah, let's
have a
just share
lot.
one of them. All right.
Wow, when all of a sudden I couldn't think of one. Okay, let me think one of that.
Yes.
Let me see how I can deal with that. Um, I think one of um the important way to not only work with Arabic cultures, right, but with the
Yes.
different culture, it's also especially give me a second. My dog is
Yeah.
wanting to get out, so I need to let her out. Give me a 1 second.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And I think that is important. And
You
when
know,
we
one
talked
thing I
about the
like,
authenticity,
yes, one thing I like about this forum is that you just do what you will do ordinarily. There's no
yeah,
script.
that is exactly what I say. We don't come to the space with a script, right?
No,
But we come to
no.
the space with ourselves. And of
All right.
course, like in some of like the podcasts, and then people say, "Oh, you have to like sit in a room, like
Uh,
stay away from all of the distraction." But for
no, no, no,
me,
no.
but 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 for me, I am leaving with all of those things, like the distraction, and it's part of
Yes.
my life, so I
It
cannot
it
stay
is.
away
It
from
is
that.
actually. Yeah, you were saying something. You are going to share one experience. Before you do that,
Uh,
can I tell you something I experienced when I went to Thailand? We went to a
uh-huh.
place and then they were serving breakfast. Okay, maybe brunch. I have never seen such an assembly of food, very, very fresh. And we found
Uh-huh.
I mean, the second friends it was large. That by the time you moved from this point to this point, you're already full, but you have only covered like a quarter of the distance. The thing was, I never forget it. Food was fresh, and we were eating and eating oh my goodness! I wish I had extra, put extra in my pocket.
You know, I oh,
Go
I,
ahead,
I
sorry, go
always
ahead.
talk to my to people that like if I have like the box to go, then I always
Yeah.
carry it with me so that I would be able to like get the symbol
Right.
after that. Um, well, I would say the experience working with a different community I can share with
Yeah.
is I think it's very important um in the communication, I would
Yes,
say. Because everyone has different ways to communicate,
absolutely.
and everyone has a different way to express themselves, you know.
Yep.
And if you don't, and especially, and I'm going to give you a very uh concrete example on the email.
Okay.
Some Sometimes like people write things on the email,
Yes.
and you would interpret it in a different way because
Yeah.
like of the tone, because of the way that the language is written, right?
Right.
So I think if we are not careful and mindful of how the language is written, the message would be interpreted differently.
Differently. I agree.
And I think also it will lead to miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So one of my experience is that I always, be very mindful, in the email, but
Yeah.
also I call people to check in with people, right? To make sure that we are on the same page. But also, as in the world right now, everything is really like moving very fast, and you don't have
Right.
time to reflect. And I think that is really important for me as the person who work with different cultures and a different perspective. I need a moment to pause and to
Yeah.
reflect and to think about what kind of like, what is the different way for me to put in the email without um, causing any misunderstanding, but
On the other
still
side.
stay
Yeah.
professional,
Yeah.
and then, sometimes people rushing you to answer the email, but then you also have to think about like the consequences of that, and then some sort of like the butterfly effects after that. So I
Yeah.
think these are kind of like the things that taught me. And then of course, the school don't teach us that. The school
No.
always teach us the knowledge. But when you work with the different communities, you learn that by yourself. And then
Right.
you use that as your personal experience.
Yeah. This is what you learn from the University of Life itself.
Yeah, the University of Life. That is correct. That is
It's
exactly what my father always say. That is a
yeah.
school of life that,
The school of life. You don't learn it
that's
from
a
any
school of
book
life.
or from anything. Okay, it's so nice, to have this conversation, especially for somebody like you who deals with people from, all over. You learn from them, and they'll learn from you because it's a two-way thing, and that's what makes our world go the way it ought to go. You know,
And
right.
And then I have to like correct you a little bit. I will
Yeah,
not use the term deal with people
yeah.
because it seems that if you use the term deal with, that means that they
Okay,
are the problem. But I
oh,
think we can say some sort of like collaborate with them, or
okay, all right.
or like work with them. And I
Yeah,
think that is kind of, the language really affects the way that we view the word, right?
correct. Yeah.
So and I think, people always have the different ways to approach the different communities. But I think at the end of the day, I think the authentic self is always important.
Always the best. And this is a very nice way to end this conversation. I really, truly appreciate the time, to have this kind of conversation. And I hope that anybody who is watching would have learned one thing or two from it.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
I want to thank you again, Ethan, for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. And don't forget that be stay hopeful, stay
You
hopeful.
stay hopeful. And when you have the time, go try Vietnamese food.
Ah, yes.
Experience.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.